Yeah, and I love that your tool, Publishing Rocket, at least helps like, simplify that for people so they can say, okay, this market is what I already enjoy writing in this market, but now I can see if I do this correctly, the value and that I can get from writing in this market. So can you explain a little bit how like Publishing Rocket works and how it can help authors with their book marketing?
Yeah, so Publisher Rocket really answers a lot of those questions. I designed it with that in mind.
Yeah.
Truth be told, though, before I get into that, let me start with saying that for years, publishing companies have used this kind of information to make their decisions. And for the longest time, us self-published authors, we didn't have that. We had to kind of guess at things. We had to, trial and tribulations. Um, then Publisher Rocket came about, and what we did was we actually kind of it's almost like pulling back the curtain of Amazon and showing the wizard, pulling all the levers. And so what we did was we created a keyword feature that tells you what words people type into Amazon, how many people are typing that in, and also gives you an indication of how well books sell in that keyword. So we give a red, yellow, green light system. Then we also have a competition analyzer that helps you to look at the other books, know how much money they're making, how well they're doing, some key information about them so you can learn about your competitors. We have a category system that lists off all of Amazon categories and tells you how many sales you would need to make in order to be the #1 bestseller,
Yeah.
which makes choosing categories that much easier. It also tells you which ones are ghost categories, which, by the way, 1/4 of every category in Amazon is a ghost category, which is a category where no matter what you do, you can't be a bestseller for it. It's like a fake category.
Wow.
So it will tell you to avoid those categories. And again, 25% of them are ghosts. So keep that in mind. And then with our Amazon ad system, it makes creating profitable ads effective and efficient. So instead of hours and hours of copy and pasting or so, it can help you to generate these keywords. And by the way, something that I haven't made public, but in a couple of weeks from recording of this, we will have a brand new Amazon ads feature that I think is going to blow people's
Oh,
minds.
dope.
We've been working on this for over a year, and I am so jazzed about it. So, anyways, yeah, so that's
Yeah.
Rocket in a nutshell.
No, I love when creators and founders build the tools that they've kind of always wanted for the user base. Like I've seen it right now with Mr. Beast dropping like view stats, and it's just like it helps so much because you're like I've known that this has been important. Now I can give it back to the people, and they decide ultimately how they use it. I think that's really important. Like what kind of genres have you seen pop off that you're like, wow, that's surprising that that's trending so much? Like I think I seen a video where it was like, was it lit RPGs or something are just like blowing up right now. I'm curious like what even ones are surprising you.
Well, I mean, the hottest genre in the entire book industry is romantasy.
Yeah, of course.
And I mean, but that's a little bit more obvious. We'll put it that way. Uh, but I was, by the way, I was super jazzed. I just saw the other day that Rebecca Yaros owns Publisher Rocket. So, for the author of Fourth Wing. So that made me pretty jazzy about that. But needless to say, and by the way, she bought it before she wrote Fourth Wing and she pivoted over to romantasy. So,
Interesting.
yep, my little writer heart is just squealing over that one. But that being said, though, is that yeah, we are finding that there's more of a shift of romance in other genres. So science fiction romance is really it. These are all picking up, and I think what happened was that when romantasy took off like crazy,
Yeah.
then all of a sudden it became evident that there's other combinations that they can kind of pursue, and so that's been growing. Literature, role playing games, lit RPG is I wouldn't say it's a new one, but Amazon it was so hot back in the day
Hmm.
that Amazon finally acknowledged it and gave it its own, category system, which is great. But for all the lit RPG fans, we all know that, not all lit RPGs are the same. You got cultivation, you got, wuxia, you got a whole bunch of other subgenres under that. The other thing that's it's hilarious if you really want to get nitty gritty. Hockey romance
Yeah,
is
big,
like super hot,
big.
which I'm a hockey player. I'm actually a goalie. And yeah, even at 40, I'm still playing ice hockey. Just played yesterday morning actually. And let me tell you what, the smell of hockey equipment, like I'm I'm glad
I
hockey
did.
players are getting some, recognition. But that being said, though, is I wonder if any of those hockey romances talk about the smell. Um, but that being said, though, is that's really picked up. And here's the thing about trends. You know, everybody remembers when the oh good Lord, what was that vampire romance? Twilight,
Yeah, it was the
right?
Twilight.
When Twilight first came out, it just established like a real genre, like its own kind of trope and aspect and structure. If you had submitted a teen vampire romance novel to any of the publishers that touched that general area, they would have signed you in a second. They would have just signed because all they just needed. They didn't care how good the books was. They just needed something
Yeah.
that fit the mold. I mean, quite frankly, if I zap myself back in time and 1 week after, Twilight had just kind of taken off, and I had literally gone through and figured out how many chapters, how many pages, kind of the writing style. And then I went and I turned and I wrote a vampire romance novel, of the same mold, if you will, not copying, but of kind of the same feel, and sent it into that publisher. I would have walked out with massive deal. And it's just weird how that was. But that only goes to show that the publishing companies are watching for that. They're waiting for, something to get hot and they're ready to jump on it, because they know that people, once they have the one, they crave for more.
Yeah,
With the success of Dune, the movie,
true.
it wouldn't shock me if at some point we start to see more, hard science starting to creep up. Now, that one's going to be a hard one. That could be a whole podcast episode on its own. But that being said, though, is you'll see a bunch of the other science fiction books of the ilk start to just rise in sales. And so it could be a book that sets it off. It could be news. Post-apocalyptic books crazily started selling well during, the COVID pandemic. Not, just so happens that people were more maybe thinking about that kind of thing. You know, so it could be news, it could be a book, it could be a success of a movie. These things can all of a sudden strike and bam, a whole new area just really takes off. And right
Yeah.
now, romantasy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, publishers tend to be like very mimetic in that sense. Like they see what's popping off and they go jump at it. So even when you're talking about it, like a lot of people we work with, content creators, tend to be in the romance genre. So I saw like the Emily Rath like pucking around, going around. I saw Hannah Grace's book going off, and you could just see like, oh, this is going on. And then you seen that collide with Book Talk and the
Boy,
Kraken, so like it was always brewing, and I think that just goes to show like obviously the strength of romance as a genre, even though people kind of still even it's clarity for me too when I hear you say that, because like all right, it only continues to prove that this genre continues to blow up, and it's because of those stories and it's that blending of what you can do. If you enjoyed that clip, make sure you head over to www.bookupapp.com to download our app so you can connect with your favorite bookish content creators, start conversations, and start your own book club.